You've heard the whispers for years. South Africa's white farmers, the Boers, are facing a silent genocide. Brutal farm murders, land grabs, and a government turning a blind eye. But in 2026, with stats showing murders down but still targeted, is it real or is it just exaggerated? Meanwhile, in the heart of the Northern Cape, the all-white Afrikaner town of Orania is thriving, a self-reliant enclave defying the chaos. Recently spotlighted in a two-parted interview by Frank Zanu with its leader, Jos Strijdom, Orania is booming, but critics call it Apartheid 2.0 today. We're updating the Boer genocide claims and diving into Orania's 2026 reality. Is it a model for survival or a divisive relic? So what's the latest with the so-called Boer genocide in South Africa? The farm murders that some say target whites disproportionately, and how does it stack up in 2026? Then we'll update on Orania, the controversial Afrikaner on the community that's growing fast despite challenges. Join the Frank Zanu's recent interview with Jos Strijdom in parts 1 and 2 on YouTube. Is Orania a beacon of cultural preservation or a symbol of exclusion? We'll fact-check the claims, break down the stats, and explore why these stories matter for white communities in Africa today. To do with the Boer genocide update, are the farmers' murders still a racial crisis in 2026? The term Boer genocide refers to the wave of violent farm attacks in South Africa, often involving murder, rape, and robbery, with claims that white farmers are disproportionately targeted. In 2026, the debate rages on, fueled by groups like AfriForm and TLUSA, who argues these are racially motivated amid chants like "Kill the Boer" at protests. But fact checks and official data paint a more complex picture. There's no systematic genocide, and attacks are a part of a broader violent crime in the country. Latest stats from the SAPA, South Africa Police Service, from April 2023 and March 2024 show 49 farm killings from the previous years, with most victims being black farm workers, not white owners. Between January and March 2025, there were around 6 farm murders, 5 black victims, 1 white. The first time racial breakdown to debunk white genocide myths being pushed like figures like Trump. AfriForm counts 1,363 white farmers murdered since 1990, about 40 per year. But that's under 1% of total murders in a country with 26,000 plus annually. Courts have dismissed white genocide as clearly imagined, in quote, and all the fact sources called it a falsehood. Still, challenges persist. Farm attacks remain violent, often with torture, and white farmers earn 72% of land despite being only 8% of the population, feeling resentment and land policies. In 2026, no full year stats yet, but trends suggest a slight decline, though rural crime remains high amid economic woes. Orania, and to do with the whole all-white Afrikaner enclave and its thriving. Orania, founded in 1991, as a cultural homeland for Afrikaners, descendants of Dutch, German, French settlers, in a self-reliant community in South Africa's Northern Cape, spanning 10,000 acres. As of December 2023, population hit with 2,875, growing at 9.9 annually since 2024, faster than most South African towns, with plans to reach 10,000 soon. 1/3 in education, preschool to college, started 2019. With its economy self-sufficient autarky, with own currency, ORA, pegged to rand, no state funding taxes for services, the key agriculture with the pecan nuts exported to China, tourism fourth earned, manufacturing, knowledge export, accountants, engineers via the internet, farming less than 2%, direct economy but key. To do with the solar energy, Lazarus project 50% completed for independence and with their own services, security, fire department, volunteers, and to do with as well with the volunteers of schools and clinics. Internally, with the strict membership, zero drugs, financial stability, and no criminal records, But it's not just about race, but with the African culture fit, Afrikaners, reformed Christian values, exclude poor whites, must buy land. In his first two-part January 2026 interview with the ZANU Project Rethinking, hosted by Frank ZANU, who is a host emphasising healthy debate, speaks with Josh Stridham, Orania's leader. Stridham describes Orania as an aeroplane already flying but still building, self-reliant, communitarian, not socialist or capitalist, focused on earned labour and cultural preservation with a 400-year Afrikaner heritage. With the ecologies that he mentioned in this interview, since 2019 they have their own flag and been able to export to China, and to do with neighbour with the relationship with shared firefighting and medical, and a blueprint for self-reliance shared from ZOS communities to do with the fights eroding constitutional rights, and to do with the self-determination threatened with Section 235 by South Africa's own government. And as well to do with the state aid, they're building regardless, and they'll have to bulldoze us down, as he said in quote, to do with the vision that he's always wanted, to do with the mutual recognition for the stability, not ruling over others. And my take is that with Orania's own success contracts South Africa's failures, but exclusively raises apartheid echoes. Orania's growth shows self-reliance, but the Boer murder stats remind us external threats persist. Not the genocide, but the targeted violence needs addressing. Stridham's interview highlights Orania's hope amid South Africa's decline, a model for ethnic preservation, but critics see it as divisive. So anyway guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video to do with the Boer genocide, and also to do with how it's kind of a misconception. And obviously earlier in this video I sounded like, I guess, I was defending like the genocide, which wasn't my case. I think that what I was trying to say was that when it comes down to, let's say, like white-owned countries, right? And you've got your own area, and you've got your own people, you've got your own community, and you've got Orania. And in the interview as well, I think he talked about, to do with that guy, Stridham, I think that he talked about that Orania isn't white supremacism. It isn't just a white-only area, it's just always about that you have to be self-sustaining, and you also have to have self-determination, meaning that you're not allowed any state bennies, you're not allowed drugs, you're not allowed all this degeneracy within their society. And I think that is really important, because when it comes down to, obviously, if we had our own EFTA state where we basically is just majority white, we'd have to still be doing things, we'd have to still be self-sustaining, we'd have to have jobs, and also to do with volunteers like firefighting and medical. I think that's really important as well, because obviously you need doctors, and especially if you've got, you need to be able to firefight, but obviously to do with the Afrikaners outside, and people would say it's divisive, but I don't think that's the case, because you can't really be called racist if you are basically saying, look, here's Orania, you can join, you can be an Afrikaner or a Boer or whatever, but you have to basically be self-sufficient. And obviously if you've got people who have basically bad genetics, outside of South Africa, especially to do with, I guess, outside of Orania, where you've got a lot of these black people are getting like very jealous of these like white neighbourhoods because they don't have the genetics or I guess the IQ to actually maintain an area. And as well, I think that it's very ironic as well, because someone like Louis Theroux, he actually managed to make a documentary about Orania, and he tried to frame them as like white supremacists, because obviously he's like very biased and he's like a lefty loon. But I do think that when it comes down to his documentary, it did highlight that a lot of them actually are going to prepare for like an invasion or targeting of white South Africans within South Africa. And to do with that whole, a lot of the people that actually know this, but a lot of Oranians very woke, a lot of them are very lefty, and they're very accepting, they probably think race mixing is normal or whatever. There's all these types of things, but I don't think they realise that the people outside of Orania really want, just really want their stuff, they want to basically have all of the, not the accountability, but basically just have all of their resources, like fresh water and food and that, but they could do all the horrible degeneracy themselves. But I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is that imagine that you have in your own area, and then basically people outside it are so jealous of you because of how good of your genetics are, and especially to do with how Orania is still thriving today. And as well, if you want to click on these videos here where I've talked about other aspects of this, where I talked about Orania, and I've talked about someone like Frank ZANU, and also to do with racial problems, I'll talk about those a little bit more in detail. And before you click on this video, I have a link in the description below with links to my other socials and my Discord as well.